Manchester United is one of the biggest brands on the planet. It could be yours for as little as £5 billion, as long as, you know, you're a fit and proper person.
In more innocent days, our next guest was not just the chairman and owner of Manchester United. He could play keepie up and lash the ball into the back of the net as a former footballer himself.
As the New York Stock Exchange shakes, well, waits anxiously for news from Old Trafford, we talk to the one and only Michael Knighton about all things red. Michael, how I wish we were back in those innocent days. Now, the New York Stock Exchange is not shaking and probably not even all that anxious. But it is an issue, isn't it, for a company as big as Manchester United, a £5 billion company, when it seems like there's absolute chaos at the top of it.
Well, inevitably, and for owners that are driven by the business price of their shares, I mean, they run their company, it is stock-driven. And the share price at the moment is the lowest it's been for some time. Wasn't just the football results which led to the recent shenanigans with the sacking of Ollie. It was a share price too. And, you know, they own the Glazer family own, measuring all the shares, 160 million shares. And when you've got 160 million shares being hammered because of what's happening, then they decide to act. That is certainly one view to take, but let's face it, every football fan in the land was waiting for the red flag and red card to be shown to Ollie, I'm afraid.
But that's the least of it, isn't it? The people that gave Ollie the job, that gave him a new contract, and then didn't let him go long after it became abundantly clear that the players were not performing for him, they're still in place.
Absolutely. It's been a shambles. Look, they've done this time and time again since Alex retired in 2013. They've had David Moyes, they've had Van Gaal, they've had Jose Mourinho, now they've had Ollie Solskjaer, and they've renewed some of those contracts. And then 3 months later, they've had to replace that manager. So that is indicative of the executive shambles at times that this club has been in. There doesn't appear to be a structured plan. They are rudderless. There's no two ways about it. And, OK, look, Ollie will know that when you're not delivering results at a club like Manchester United, your time is limited. I think everyone thought he would have gone when the old enemy Liverpool hammered them at Old Trafford 5-0 in a shocking performance. Man City, their neighbours, also won at Old Trafford. And then on Saturday, an abysmal performance at Watford. And Watford are not even in the top, you know, half of that division when it comes to reputations, at least. So it was inevitable that he was toast. And I did say after Saturday, I said he will have gone within 24 hours. I have to say, I said the same thing after he got a thrashing from Liverpool at home. But it was inevitable. But look, the executive, I've been critical of the executive management at Old Trafford now for a number of years, and certainly since the appalling affair of the European Super League debacle. I mean, that was the real final straw for me.
Well, a new owner will be difficult at £5 billion, but a new executive ownership, I want to press you on this point. Presumably, the Glazers are not fools, or they wouldn't have the kind of assets that they have. How does someone who is a billionaire allow the deterioration of the brand and its share price without intervening? I know that if I owned Manchester United, or let's something less outlandish, Roman Abramovich owns Chelsea, he doesn't allow a half season to go by of underachievement. He sacks managers with absolute ruthlessness. Why are the Glazers so indulgent of this failing executive layer at the club?
Well, I will agree with that sentiment. The Glazers are not fools. They're certainly not fools. They might have taken everyone else to be a fool. I mean, after all, they had this unbelievable leveraged buyout where they used the club's assets to buy the club. The club still has well over £435 million worth of debt. When I left that club in the 90s, it had no debt and plenty of money in the bank. These people have really led a charmed life. So yes, they're no fools, but they are incredibly inept at managing a crisis at Manchester United. And this is because they leave it to chartered accountants and investment bankers. Why they do that, I simply don't know. I simply don't know. Because you're right, George, these people are already hugely wealthy people. And you don't become hugely wealthy unless there is a degree of ruthlessness there, which hasn't been shown, oddly enough, in the manager position at Old Trafford. Having said that, they've had now, if you count Ollie, 5 managers, well, certainly 5 if you count Ryan Giggs' 4 games in charge, since Alex Ferguson left. And they've won nothing. And if you're winning no silverware at Old Trafford, as you quite rightly say, George, perhaps, well, not perhaps, the greatest football club in the world, if you're not winning anything, which Ollie hasn't done in his 3 years of tenureship, then you're toast. It's as simple as that. I don't know what the answer is about why the Glazers have been so useless at running this great institution. And they're not ready to sell unless they get horrendous, obscene amounts of money on the table. Then, of course, because everything's for sale at the end of the day, they might just be persuaded to go.
Well, theatre of dreams has become a theatre of nightmares for those of us who support them and love them. You bought the club off a butcher. I don't know if you're prepared to say what you paid for it. How did it get from the price you paid to £5 billion? Where does that value come from?
Well, if I was sufficiently arrogant, George, which some will say I am, I would say because of my blueprint that I put in place. But only a fool would say that it's all down to Michael Knighton. In fact, there'll be 1 million people who would now be suffering chronic thrombosis of just thinking about that. But the point is that it did start. We've never looked back, really, from '89. From an economic perspective. And you've only got to look at the tremendous partnerships that's been built up over those 2 or 3 decades. So the value of Manchester United, I mean, I valued the club at £150 million, but the then chairman owner, Martin Edwards, asked me for 10 million. I thought he was mad. It was the deal of the century. The art of a deal is never to say what you're prepared to pay, because if you'd asked me for 5 times that much, I would have paid it. The thing is that at the end of the day, Manchester United is the greatest brand in the world. And the reason it's built that position for itself is it has the magic of the Busby Babes. It has Best, Law and Charlton. It had the travesty of Munich. So the mystery, the magic of the name Manchester United is unassailable. It's always going to be there. Unfortunately, the Glazers don't really appreciate the magnitude of that history. They don't understand the feeling of all football fans, even those that pretend to dislike Manchester United. Every football fan in the world knows of its history, knows of its magic, save perhaps for the owners, which is totally absurd. But it's true.
Well, I'll tell you where some of their value comes. Look, I have, by the grace of God, 6 children, all of them bedecked from head to toe in Manchester United merchandise at top dollar from the superstore at Old Trafford. Tickets for the game, subscriptions to Manchester United TV. And as Gayatri will testify, when we've been in Malaysia and in Indonesia, bars and restaurants are packed in the middle of the night watching live Manchester United games. This is a global brand like no other, isn't it?
Oh, there's no question. Look, with all respect to every other sport in the world, the one sport that captures the imagination of the Homo sapien, the population throughout the world, is football, because it's gladiatorial, it is territorial, it is, it's almost a unifying force for we human beings who thrive on passion, who thrive on success, who thrive on reflected glory. Manchester United provides all those criteria that we human beings love. And it's got that magic to go with it, the history, the best, the Lord Charltons, the Munich, the Busby Babes. The whole history just captures the imagination of the human being. You're right, George. I've been into Africa, and you go into some villages, they haven't got clean water, but some of the kids are wearing a Manchester United shirt. You think, this is unbelievable. Yeah. So the reach of the brand is extraordinary. But it was always going to be the case. The minute satellite television came around, you can say what you like about Murdoch, we all can be criticised of animals like he, but he knew the one thing that would save his company was beaming professional football to the South Pacific Basin, to the Asian communities. He knew that it would win through in the day, and so it's proved. Not many people did in 1989 when it was launched. Nobody in football believed it. Trust me, because I went around saying, this is why I can make Manchester United great. It had never made any money, George. People forget. It was turning over 7 million quid. Absurd now. When I went there, everyone was telling me, who's going to have a dish on the side of their wall? Don't be silly. Nobody will buy satellite television. I said, hang on. Even kids moving into the digital world, when you can beam this fantastic sport and Manchester United playing it around the world, they will queue up to buy that TV programme.
And so we did. If I could turn back time, Michael, I'd have you as the chairman and Sir Alex Ferguson forever in the manager's hot seat. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, and God bless you both.